it was quite remarkable to look back at the end of my tour as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and see how much was different from when I arrived in 1990. We had no relationship whatsoever with Cambodia, the government in Cambodia, which was a communist party, communist government. We had no relationship whatsoever with North Vietnam, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, no diplomatic exchanges. We had no progress on POW MIA accounting. We had no access to Cambodia, no access really to Vietnam. We're getting no information from China. Virtually no support and cooperation in Laos. There was no UN consensus or agreement or plan to try to bring Cambodia to a new stage of political life, to open it up internationally. There were no aid programs to help rebuild Cambodia, no international involvement. And the Khmer Rouge, 25,000 strong, still embedded across the Cambodian countryside. And the Khmer Rouge were holding the Cambodian seat at the UN, still riding high internationally. And 4 years later, all of that changed. Enormous credit needs to go to President Bush, Secretary Jim Baker, Undersecretary Bob Kimmett, Counselor Bob Zellick, Brent Scowcroft, National Security Advisor, set in place this wonderful effort. And particularly the leadership of Assistant Secretary Ambassador Richard Solomon, Dick Solomon, my great and wonderful friend. And I was so honored, so thrilled to be a part of that. So glad I had come home from the Philippines when I did, to be part of this extraordinary diplomatic effort, and then to be carried over into the Clinton administration and to work with Secretary Warren Christopher, and particularly Assistant Secretary Winston Lord, for his marvelous leadership in continuing all that we had done and building on that. And I was honored and delighted and pleased that as I stepped away and would deal with my health issues, that now we had a presence in Vietnam. I had sent young officers to Hanoi before we even had an embassy, taking a chance, having them be there on the ground. Just as we took a chance bringing a Vietnamese diplomat to Washington, approving him being there without a formal structure. I was pleased that my negotiations with China had produced information, that I had negotiated the access into Cambodia for the first time ever by POW MIA American search teams, that we were getting more information from Laos and beginning to have bilateral efforts between Vietnam and Laos, and that we had a whole UN peacekeeping mechanism, bringing thousands of peacekeepers and spreading them across Cambodia. and carrying out a UN run and supervised free and fair election that produced a result of a government that would be a coalition government made up of the major parties now forced to work together. We've done so much, brought about a huge amount of change, pulling together all these various factors, all these elements that were affecting policies, decisions in Paris and in London and in Beijing and Hanoi and Moscow and Washington, D.C. It was an incredible time, incredible transformative period. And I felt very good to be the one American diplomat, the one American Foreign Service officer who would work on this through both administrations, from that beginning to the culmination with the establishment of diplomatic relations and ambassadors in Hanoi, in Phnom Penh, and access to prisons in Vietnam for the first time, and access to prisons in the former Soviet Union, and access to records in Moscow. I don't know if there's been as productive a period since we normalized relations with China that would bring about such transformation of Southeast Asia that would have impact, lasting impact for decades. I was looking forward then to what would come next.